Welcome to another exciting episode of The Real Deal. Let's get it. All right, welcome to again another exciting episode of The Real Deal, the Saturday edition. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden, episode 142. We're doing this month is March Madness, but it's also Women's History Month, and I've been doing a series of with Women's History Month, just highlighting and just giving flowers to a lot of different women in this in the media space, in sports media, and business, and just a lot of different areas. So, just like I said, just highlighting and just giving them the platform just to talk about a lot of different things, what Women's History Month means to them, and again, just having great conversations for them. So, I have a great guest coming up. Not going to keep her much longer, so I'm going to introduce her very, very soon. But we are presented by BS3 Network, BS3 TV, Roku, also BS3 Sports. You could get all the shows and all. You can check it out on all podcast platforms, whether Spotify, Google Play, and Apple. Also, you can check us out on Spreaker as well, and follow me on all social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. Anywhere you get podcasts, you can get the shows there. I get BS3 Network and BS3 TV, BS3 TV Live.com as well. So I have a great returning podcast family, not a guest, podcast family onto the show here. She's been on the show and I've been on her show. We've done so many crossover shows together. I've lost count, so I don't even think about how many we've done. We've done over 10. So we'll just say that. So we like I said, we've done so many things. We have so many great conversations on camera and off camera. I have Gabby Hurlbut, from host of Locked On Red Sox and the Boston Ballin podcast as well. She also does Patriots content, Boston sports. She is the one. If you want to get any Boston content, Boston sports, or anything like that, Gabby is the one. So, Gabby, welcome to the back to the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I know we've just done so many shows together
Yeah.
over these past few years, and so it's just become kind of a just regular thing at this point.
Yeah, it's almost like a regular. We do like a regular show, like weekly almost, or at least monthly. You're on, or I'm on your show. I think I was on your show back in
Recently.
January or February,
Yeah.
and so we already got shout outs. Rachel McCallum said it's been a minute. Thanks for tuning in. Always appreciate the yeah. If you want to get into the comments, we're like I said, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. So hit us up. You got any questions or anything like that, we are more than welcome. We'll any discussion, any topics. So hit us up on those platforms as well. But yeah, like you said, we've done. I was just on your show in January, and we was just discussing. I said I got to get you back on. We got Kevin Augustine in the building. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate the support always. But how have you been? And happy Women's History Month to you as well. But how have you been? Like you said, you're planning a wedding and
Yeah.
everything. So that's been a lot, and you've still been doing a lot of good content. So how's everything going?
Yeah, it's been fantastic actually. Just been super busy like you mentioned with planning a wedding on top of doing my two shows and working and everything. So it's kind of been a crazy last few months or so, but it's been a fun few months. I always say the wedding planning process is like a bit keeps you busy, but a good busy because you're
Yeah.
doing fun things trying to plan for that big day.
Yes, and like we were just talking before we started recording, and even before that, I was just saying out too. Enjoy the moment of planning because it does go really fast, and it seems like you don't have time to really sit back and relax with it. But with the process, it's a great process. It's a really good process, just the planning and everything too. So again, enjoy that moment because the wedding will be here, and then you get to enjoy that. But it's that lead up to it where you got to get everything in line with the dresses and the cake tasting, the food tasting, the venue, and all those things. But yeah, like I said, really enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I'm definitely focusing on enjoying everything now because I know once it passes, it's all going to be over, and I won't get
Yeah,
this opportunity again. So I definitely am trying to just enjoy the
yes,
moment while
be the
I
moment.
have it and
Mhm.
just not stress myself out, because it's such a special time of year.
Yes, and it can get stressed in certain things, but it's you want to enjoy, like I said, just be in the moment each and every day. Just be thankful and be in the moment. So that would be if you ever had asked for advice or anything like that, I could definitely tell you just to really enjoy it and just be in the moment because it's as you said, it does go really fast, but you can always you just enjoy that. You just enjoy the process of just seeing the person you are going to marry, just to see how happy they are and happy you are, and you're just guys are doing this together as a unit and being in unity. So I always say enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I definitely have appreciated all the advice
Yeah,
I've
I
been
appreciate
getting
you.
too
Yep.
about like, just make sure that you're making sure that it's a day you want it to be. Like
Yes.
everything that goes
Yes.
into it and all the decisions you're making feel like it's you,
Hmm.
because this is your day.
It's your day. It's your day. It's nobody else. It's your day, and that's you got to stress that too. It's like this is what I want the wedding to be like. This is what I want to do. So yes, it's between the two of you of like really appreciating, but you're just thinking this is what our day because it's a dream day. It's that day of you. It's, that once in a lifetime for some more, but we just say once in a lifetime event that you want to really enjoy. So again, I appreciate your time coming onto the show always. We got a lot to discuss because, as you said, we got March Madness. We have NBA's getting into the stretch run. They got about a month left and before playoff time start, and we got Major League Baseball. The season starts in what less than 2 weeks. So I said I got to get you on. So there's a lot to cover. NFL free agency is ongoing, so that was a big thing. So again, I really appreciate you jumping on to the show.
Yeah, always. Every time you ask, I'm like, let's totally do this again. I feel like we just have such good conversations about really all sports.
Yeah, all sports. You're right. Every sport just about. So, but all right, let's get started. I want to touch on some NFL free agency first, since that has been this is taking over the whole week so far. All the signings and some trades and things like that. What was your reaction when you first, like, soon as Monday hit, the legal tampering was happening in the NFL free agency? But what was your overall take on the on NFL free agency?
Yeah, I think it was crazy as it always is. I think
Mhm.
there were moves that were made that definitely were a little bit surprising. Even most recently, yesterday, with the Steelers trading Kenny Pickett to the Eagles, I thought that was an interesting
Yeah.
move. Trying to comprehend still, how they plan to utilize him, most likely as a backup, because I don't really see them moving on from Hurts anytime soon.
Right.
And the Steelers bringing in Russell Wilson was definitely not something I expected either.
Hmm.
So there definitely have been some moves where I'm like, wow, I'm a little surprised that that happened. But as always, definitely a very just fun, exciting time. Just so much chaos over those first few days. There definitely were teams that I expected to do a little bit more that haven't done as much. Like the Cowboys are a team in particular that stand
Yes.
out to me that kind of have been standing pat a little bit during this free agency that I thought would do a little bit more than they have been doing.
Yes.
But I think teams like the Texans and the Vikings have nailed a lot of their moves so far.
Yeah, as you already know, and the ones that are listening, I'm a big Eagles fan, so Eagles fans throughout my life. And when they were like just that's what it started. Started with DeAndre Swift, who was on the Eagles last year. So you have you had that. He goes to Chicago. So I'm thinking, okay, so the Eagles didn't resign Swift, which I would have been cool with that. I would have been a-okay with that. And then there's like, okay, he's gone. So now Josh Jacobs, he goes to Green Bay. It's like, all right, the Eagles are they don't have no they don't, don't think they're gonna go with Boston Scott and I go with Kenneth Gainwell. The Eagles are maybe in talks. And I told my wife, I said, we might be getting Saquon Barkley. Now there was talks that he was involved in, discussions and things like that. And now I know the Eagles are in an investigation for that too. It's like did they reach out to him earlier than but they were just saying he had interest. And I was like, okay, this is something. They know the Giants weren't gonna pay him and anything like that, but he did but he was linked to the Texans. He's linked to maybe Baltimore. He's linked to, so I'm thinking, the Eagles must have got something up their sleeve. I know Howie Roseman loves to make moves. He does. That's what he does. He's a magician when it comes to making moves. And then Saquon, as soon as I said that Saquon signs with the Eagles, I'm like, wow. I didn't think that was gonna. I didn't think it was gonna actually happen, and it did. So, but you're right. The running backs were a real big premium this season too. Austin Eckler, he moves, and Derrick Henry. So for a position like that, the surprising that they're saying, oh, running backs are they don't get enough recognition anymore like they used to. They were a premium in this free agency.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's interesting to see the teams that picked up some of these guys
Mhm.
and how they're going to be utilized because running backs are often a position that people don't really put a lot of emphasis in. And they're like not as talked about really as a position of need for teams going
Right.
into free agency. So I think it's been interesting that teams have started to prioritize that. And that's kind of been a player position that's been featured a lot more this offseason. And I think when you look at the overall scope of things, even with that Saquon Barkley situation,
Mhm.
the writing was on the wall that he wasn't going to be a Giant anymore in general. I think a lot of people knew that he was going to be out. But to me, I didn't expect him to still end up in the same division. I thought he was going to
Yes.
end up elsewhere, and Giants fans were having an absolute meltdown on Twitter after that happened because they were like, I can't believe he went to the Eagles of all places. I
Yeah.
just hope he can stay healthy. That's a big thing too for me is can he stay on the field because he's had an injury history, so it'll be interesting to see if he's able to stay on the field because if he is, he absolutely is so worth it for the Eagles.
I mean, yes, and then, like you said, the Giants, and the Giants fans, I understand. I do understand them being upset because if anything, like if any of our players got traded or left, any of the big time fans who we are of athletes who we are fans of, and they move to a different team in the division, we would be highly upset. Like you said, you're a Patriots fan, so you would have been highly upset if Tom Brady went to the Jets or he went to a heated rivalry like Buffalo or something like that, you'd have been very upset about
Yeah.
it. And yeah, you was upset because he left New England, still went to Tampa Bay. But yeah, so I get why they would be salty about that. But it's one of those things. It's one of those things too that the Giants didn't pay him. They even said they didn't make him a priority. They didn't make Saquon a priority. So as a business standpoint, the Eagles showed a lot of interest, and other teams showed a lot of interest, and the Eagles just they paid him what he wanted. He got the bag, so I don't blame him for moving on. He gave the Giants 7 years of his career. They never really built a great offense around him. So yeah, I could totally understand why he would move. I get it from the perspective, like I said, as a fan going to a hated rivalry division rival, but but hey, we'll take him. The Eagles sure will take him. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see how now that he has a good offensive line, he has a premier quarterback with an offense. Now we can see what Saquon staying healthy, what he can do with dynamic of a player that he is in an offense like this. Because the Eagles now they do got the pieces, so it's all about now. Let's try to make a run of what they're able to do.
Yeah, they definitely have the talent in place to be able to go all the
Mhm.
way. It's just a matter of utilizing guys the right way and maximizing the talent that they do have. And with Jalen Hurts, he's very talented and I think he's perfect for the Eagles system and what they're trying to do. So that situation there with Kenny Pickett definitely was a little puzzling to me too. But I
Yeah,
mean, I don't see them really using him as more than just a backup in case, Hurts were to get injured or something, more of maybe like a security blanket from that standpoint. But I think the Eagles are looking pretty good still.
yeah, and the way the way the season ended for the Eagles, and they just had to make moves. So they got new offensive and defensive coordinators, and they now a couple of players have retired, Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox, which are big, intricate pieces. I mean, the veterans, future Hall of Famers, like they retire, but the Eagles are trying to move forward. They're trying to like say, okay, maybe this past season was a the way it ended was just I can't even explain it. We talked about that, like couldn't explain it how they free fall the way they did. So they made to make some moves, and now they're making moves. So we'll see. And then, like I said, all the other moves have been made. Derrick Henry going to Baltimore, and like all these teams, like look at the Chargers. They're losing both of their receivers. I mean, what do you think of some of these other moves? Kirk Cousins getting so much money. Like I always call Kirk Cousins the heist because who I want to know who his agent is because he just signed another $100 million guaranteed contract going to Atlanta. And that offense, I mean, now maybe they might make a little bit of a run. I mean, they got to work on some defense on their defensive side, but Kirk Cousins getting paid again, like there was just so many good moves.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Kirk Cousins, the Vikings, they made some good moves this offseason too. I think
Mhm.
adding Aaron Jones was a big addition for them. They have a talented offense over there, and having him be added into the mix there, I know there were people that were disappointed on Twitter about that move, but I really like that move. I think he's going to add to what's already a very talented offense over there, with some young players too, like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, guys who are really very talented and could put that team in a position to succeed. So that was a really notable move for me that I took out of this first week of free agency is the Vikings are putting themselves in a position to be pretty competitive.
Yeah, they are. You would thought like they would have maybe went after Justin Fields at one point too. But I want to ask you about your Patriots, and they're going to need a quarterback. And what do you feel like? I know they would probably want to try to draft quarterback in the draft, but Justin Fields, would you consider wanting Justin Fields as a New England Patriot? Because where does he go now? A lot of teams now they have their quarterbacks now. Justin Fields is still a Chicago Bear. We think before the draft that he will be traded, but I know there was talks that he could be a backup. Now I'm thinking, man, this guy's so young. He still has a lot of time left. But then again, Kenny Pickett gets traded to be a backup now. So Justin Fields, I know Denver still need a quarterback. So, but how would you feel about maybe the Patriots maybe reaching out and getting Justin Fields?
I think it's a possibility. I think it
Mhm.
would depend for me on what they have to give up to acquire him. I
Yeah.
think the Patriots are in an interesting situation right now because they still need a wide receiver one. They haven't had a wide
Mm,
receiver one in a while, and I'm waiting for them to address the wide receiver situation, which is something they haven't done yet during this free agency. They've been a little underwhelming overall so far. And Justin Fields is somebody who I think it's been hard for him to be able to really showcase fully what he can do at the professional level because he hasn't really been in the best situation. But my worry with Justin Fields is that it would almost be a Mac Jones 2.0 type of
mm,
situation because he needs the talent around him to be able to succeed in the Patriots system. And until they get that talent around the quarterback, I don't know that acquiring somebody like Justin Fields makes a lot of sense right now. I mean, they did sign Jacoby Brissett, who I think is kind of their intended bridge guy for right now.
yeah.
And it almost shows me even more that they want to draft a quarterback and
Yes.
develop a quarterback in the system under Brissett and not add somebody else. In that time. And I almost feel like if they do get Justin Fields, they might be almost doing him dirty too because he doesn't really have the talent over there right now to be able to succeed. So I just don't know that now is the best time to bring in somebody like him unless they really are going to be aggressive when it comes to improving that receiving core and giving him people that he can actually throw the ball to.
Yeah, right. And I think that's where if they get someone like Justin Fields and because like I said, there's not a lot of talk going on with him, and you would have thought like, okay, by now some of the teams that needed a quarterback would have actually went out and try to get Justin Fields. So, but now he's still on Chicago. We don't know what's going to happen with that situation. They have the number one pick. Uh, so who knows what they're going to do. But I felt like, wow, okay, maybe the Patriots, but now like you said, maybe they're going to go into the draft and pick one of the young quarterbacks again, and they have a high pick. They got the number 3 pick, so they're in a prime spot. But if they got Justin Fields, I think they could actually get a receiver, get Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe something like that. I thought that, but then because we don't know even getting a top quarterback in the draft if that's even going to work out. So I know there's a lot of discussion of, well, Justin Fields, he might not pan out wherever he goes. Yeah, we don't know about these top quarterbacks either. It's always a dice roll when it comes to that. So I mean, we don't really know. You draft a quarterback at very high, everybody doesn't turn out to be a high caliber superstar quarterback. Sometimes it takes some time too. So everybody doesn't become Patrick Mahomes. Everybody doesn't become all these players top quarterbacks. So it's a dice roll when it comes to drafting quarterbacks very high.
Yeah, I think with the Patriots, they definitely could go either way with that number 3 pick. It would be
Mhm.
awesome to get Marvin Harrison Jr. He's a really serious talent that I think would be super beneficial for the Patriots to have. And I don't know how confident I really am in some of these top quarterbacks either. You are rolling the dice, like you said, with whoever you draft, because and reality at the end of the day is you don't know who's going to pan out and who's not. I personally would like to see the Patriots draft a receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
unless they're very, very confident in a specific quarterback. I don't really want it to be the mentality of they're drafting a quarterback just because they feel like they have to draft a quarterback, because I almost
Right.
feel like that's how it was with Mac. They drafted him because they felt like we absolutely have to draft a quarterback right now because we no longer have our franchise quarterback
Hmm.
from 20 plus years. And then it almost felt like a forced thing with Mac, and they didn't really do the best effort that they could to grow and develop him as a quarterback in their
Yeah.
own system. So I would want them more to draft a quarterback at 3 if it feels like the right fit for them. And if they don't feel confident in any of those quarterbacks that they could take at 3, then I almost say draft a receiver there, one of the top receivers in the
Yeah.
class, and then look elsewhere for the quarterback, because their problem is right now, like, they're not going to attract a lot of top free agents in general when they have no quarterback at the moment. So it's just
Yeah.
hard to sell players on coming to New England during free agency right now when they're still very much in a rebuild.
Yeah, new coaching. I mean, now know the Belichick, for all those years. Now you have a new regime coming in, so it is kind of it is a rebuild, and I know they probably want to when it's a rebuild like that, they want to have their guy, they want to have their quarterback. So let me ask you this: if they do get a quarterback at 3, for you, Drake May or JJ McCarthy, which one would you rather have to build around?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'd prefer McCarthy
Mm.
if I had to pick between those two, but I think out of all of the quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels would be my choice.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
think he'd be a good fit for the Patriots. I think, I really liked his style of play in college, and I think he's teachable. I think he's somebody who would be willing to come in and, do his best to really learn the system. And I think it's interesting because, I mean, Drake May definitely is talented too. And I don't really see him being available at 3, but if he were to be available at 3, I don't think it'd be a bad choice either. And at the end of the day, this quarterback, if they do take one of these guys, is going to come in and have to adjust and learn the system. And with new coaching in place and just a new Patriots way now, Mayo could have a very different view on a quarterback than Belichick had. It's hard to really know because this is his first time, coaching this team and
Right.
being in that position. And even with the GM situation, I mean, Elliot Wolf is kind of the acting GM right now. What's his view on what a quarterback in the Patriots system should look like? I could see JJ McCarthy being somebody that the Patriots would like having around in their system. But if it were my choice, I would go Jaden Daniels, then JJ McCarthy, and then Drake May after that.
Yeah, and yeah, there's a lot. The quarterbacks they're gonna in this draft at least they're gonna definitely go because you got Caleb Williamson too. You still got him. More than likely number one.
Yeah.
Whatever the Bears do, even they trade it, but now the Patriots are in talks of maybe trading that pick too. And there's been rumors about Minnesota wanting to move up and get that. So I think when you're in that top, especially top five, you have leverage and you can do a lot of different things. And we've watched football for so many years and drafts. You just don't know. It could be nothing. Everybody stand pat. There's all these rumors and leading to the draft, and then nothing happens, and everybody just goes according to plan who they want. So it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens now. So like I said, free agency was such a frenzy. Now the draft will be here next month. So everything is going very, very quickly. So, but I want to transition to March Madness as you're a big Yukon Huskies
Yes.
fan and
Lifelong UConn
lifelong
fan.
Yukon fan, and on both sides, the women didn't have didn't have one of the better years like they normally have. I mean, they've always been top and everything too, but they're starting to really get rolling. But the men, they look like one of the favorites heading into the tournament. What do you think? We'll start on the men's side. Uh, what do you think? Do you think UConn can actually go back to back? Be the first time since Florida did it way back with Joakim Noah and Al Horford and all those guys. What do you think? You think UConn's got a good shot? This looks like it's going to be this year is going to be wide open. You got Purdue, you got Houston, North Carolina. I mean, there's a lot of teams. Depending, I know selection show Sundays tomorrow, but UConn looks like one of the favorites. But what do you think of UConn's chances going all the way and winning again?
Yeah, I do like their chances. I think they definitely have a shot. What's crazy about this UConn team is they're better than last year's team was. And last
Yeah,
year's
that's
team,
scary.
went through a bump in the road in January and started to slip a little bit. And I said, I don't know if this team can sustain this effort all the way through. And then they go
Yeah.
and they beat everybody by double digits in the tournament, which was so crazy. They didn't win the Big East tournament last year. They're trying to do that tonight, actually, in the championship. And they've just looked absolutely dominant this year. This year's team has a lot of talent, and now they have some experienced players, guys who already won the national championship last
Right.
year, that are anchoring this team this year, which I think is going to be huge for them. Because last year they didn't have that experience and they went all the way to the national championship. Their head coach now won the national championship last year. He's a very animated guy. I love him, but I love his coaching style. I love how he keeps this team hungry. He keeps them wanting more. Even when they win a good game, he just keeps them aiming for the next thing, which I think is a great mentality to have in March. I think they've been playing really good basketball again. They're a tough team to beat. When they're playing their best, I
Yeah.
truly feel like they are the best team in the country.
And they were the best. They've been the best team in the country throughout, those 4 or 5 months. So they played the best. It seems like because there's been a lot of different number ones in this season. And then like I said heading into and then with March Madness, we already know like it comes down to who's one of the hottest teams. They're hot at the right time. As you said, they could have a bump in the road in early January, maybe February, but leading to their conference tournament into the March Madness, it's just seems like who's the hottest team, and UConn has been one of the most consistent teams. They had a couple losses, but I think they had three altogether. But they they like I said, they got experience. Their coach has experience. They won the national championship last year, and you're right. This team looks like the better. They look better than they did last year because even last year they were a four, I think, a four
Yeah.
seed heading into, and but they got hot. They again, if you can, you rattle off some wins in February heading into March, and you win your conference tournament, you got a good shot. And there is right now, they look like one of the best teams in the country heading into the tournament.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because they had a couple games, recently in the Big East tournament. The last couple days they've started off slow in both of those games, but then you completely forget about the fact that they started off slow because they end up just dominating the rest of the game. And
Mhm.
March Madness is such a different animal just because it's, one game you don't play
One and
well and you're
done.
out.
Yeah.
And it's definitely it just goes to show that any team at any time could just get hot and win the whole thing. But I think UConn plays unselfish basketball. It's a very much a team effort. Lots of guys out there who know their roles and are doing their jobs the right way. And it's just fun to see this team really come together. And their experience now, having been through this, is huge. So hopefully, in those high pressure situations during the tournament, they can handle that pressure because now they know what it's like to go all the way. I think they're in a great spot. There are some very good teams this year for sure. But it's hard for me to picture teams beating this UConn team if they continue to play their absolute best basketball.
Yeah, I think when they play their best, I agree. I think when they play their best basketball, they are the best team in the country. But as you said, it's March Madness. It takes one bad game heading into in that, like when you're not hitting your threes, or foul trouble from some of your main major players. It could be a lot of different things. And you just catch a team that's, again, it could be even hotter and coming into and playing so loose, because we know we see there's so many upsets each and every year. But usually the best teams come out, and then the next thing you know, they're the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, and they're like, okay, now we see that we have the better teams. That's been the best teams all year, really show. Because look at last year, Purdue was a number one seed, and they got beat in the first round. So I know they're tired thinking we got to get over this hump because they've been one of the better teams this year, but they've had some hiccups too. So I know they're thinking we're going to probably them or UConn will be the number one overall seed. Just depends, I guess, what happens today and tomorrow in their championship, their conference championship games. But yeah, because UConn, yesterday played a good. I mean, it was a good game against St. John's yesterday. What a
Yeah.
tough game, but again, UConn's just got so much experience, so much the coaching, and when and they didn't even play their best at that time, but they're even their best, like their second best or whatever, is better than some teams. And St. John's put up a fight, but
Oh,
UConn just like Jay Bill said, they don't really have any weaknesses, so that's a dangerous team.
yeah, I give St. John's a ton of credit. They played that game tough. They
Yeah,
definitely gave UConn a run for their money. At the end of the day, I think it just came down to UConn is just a better team. Just all
overall,
around, just
yeah,
so much talent on that team, and it's just a tough team to beat. I think St. John's wins that game if they were playing pretty much anybody else but UConn.
yeah,
They looked very good. They have a great coach too. I knew that he'd have them prepared. Patino is just legendary, and I just knew that he would have that team ready to go.
yeah.
So they're in a great situation with him at the helm there. Just a lot of talented kids on that team too. So I definitely was really, impressed by their performance in that game. They should definitely not be disappointed in what they displayed because they definitely were hanging in there for the entirety of the game.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's talk about the Yukon women on that side. I mean, with the women's college basketball has been tremendous. I mean, it's been so much with Caitlin Clark. South Carolina's undefeated. Can LSU? I mean, there's so many stories. Can LSU get back to the championship? There's so many storylines, but UConn, they're gonna be in. They're gonna be a dangerous team. How do you feel like the UConn women's with Paige Beckers leading the way? Gino or Emma, he's got the magic touch. Always, you just can't count them out. I think the dream scenario it would be the Final Four would if it would be UConn, Iowa, LSU, South Carolina. I think that would be one of the dream scenarios that a lot of people are thinking, oh, this must see TV, even though the women's game is must see TV. But what do you think of the UConn women's? There's so many good teams. There's so many really good teams on the women's side. But how do you feel like they how they might do heading into the tournament?
Yeah, you never can count Gino out. He's just one of the best coaches of all time. So he'll,
Yes.
always find a way to make those girls be ready to go
Mm-hmm.
come, tournament time. The one thing with them is they've just been such like an injury prone team this year.
Yeah,
They've
great
just hit
injuries.
so many injuries, and that's the unfortunate thing for them. Some very talented players who they're missing that should be part of the puzzle this year. So they had two freshmen starting all season that are very talented, but probably wouldn't have been starting otherwise because these players got injured that should have been in the mix this year. They've looked so dominant against their own conference this year. I mean, they went
Yeah.
undefeated against the Big East this year. But my worry is that same thing can't be said as much for the out of conference games. They struggled against teams not in the Big East this year. South Carolina being one of them, lost pretty badly to them earlier in the season. So my concern would be, do they have the depth to beat a team like that because of the fact that they have girls who are sidelined that really should be in the equation there and be playing regular minutes. I just don't know that their starting five right now can compete with a team like that because yes, we have Paige Beckers, who is obviously one of the best players in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the problem is if they're relying too heavily on her, like South Carolina just has a very, very well-rounded starting five who are so talented. And they can't rely on Paige to pull the weight the entire time. So they're going to have to figure out a better way to just continue to play team basketball and try to compensate as best they can for those injuries and
Yeah.
players that they're going to be missing. They definitely have a shot. They always have a shot. I just don't know how much or how deep that can take them unless they just are really able to overcome some of that pressure because they haven't played as well in big games this year,
Yeah.
and their lack of confidence in those games has shined through, so they're going to have to get over that if they want to make a good run this year.
Right. And they made good. I mean, you brought a really good point because, as you said, UConn they have struggled to get all season against the upper echelon teams, with all five of their losses by double digits by all those top teams. That was in the top 10, top 11. I was reading, but then, like you said, Gino Rima, I was reading a lot of different things, just researching and stuff. And he says some years he can't predict this team because of the injuries, because of the inconsistencies. But he said you just never know. It could make a deep run in this tournament. And next thing you know, boom, they're in the Final Four. Would you be surprised? No, because of
No,
the
not at
history.
all.
No, you wouldn't be surprised, And right, you said the injuries have hurt them, and again, against against the better competition, they have struggled. But you know, we like we say during the tournament, if you do have a all-star caliber player that can take over games, Paige Becker's started a little slowly, just coming off her injury. Started a little slowly, but really came on, and then showed why she's been one of the best women's players over the last couple of years. Showed that yes, I can take a team on my back. You said it's a lot of pressure. Take my team on my back and really get deep into the tournament. If you have one or two of those type of players, you have a shot with an experienced coach. You have a shot. So I'm not gonna count UConn out. I don't know if they're gonna make a real deep run, but I wouldn't be surprised if they next thing you know they're in the Elite Eight and you're thinking, oh, it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
This is UConn. This is the history. This is what they do. It's just the competition is just a lot stronger this time around, and they are one of the better teams, but they're just still about 5, 6, 7 better teams than what they are.
I agree with that completely.
Mhm.
I think, they have the talent. They feel like, they're right there. They just maybe are like slightly below a few
Yeah.
other teams. And the question becomes, can they realistically compete with those teams or not? But again, March is so unpredictable. You don't really know. They have a long period of rest before the tournament starts. So we'll see how they look coming into it. But they definitely always have a shot. They'll always have a shot as long as Gino's here.
Well, as Gino's here, yeah, and like I said, you have one player, one star player that could take over a game or take over for 6 games. It's definitely possible. We've seen a lot of different things like Angel Reese last year, Caitlin Clark last season. You just have that. You just get that one player sometimes, and they can take over the tournament, and next thing you know, they're in the Final Four and championship. So I would not be surprised if UConn makes a deep run and they're again right in the Elite Eight and the Final Four. So we'll see. It's gonna be. I'm looking forward to that too. So I always ask you every year, how many brackets are you going to do this year? How many are you going to join any contest? Like I always do. I always try to limit it, but I get so caught up. I'm thinking I'm gonna do another 10 or whatever. How many bracket challenges are you going to enter into?
Usually I end up on average entering like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I end up like finding myself having a difficult time keeping track of which bracket is
Yes.
which. Like,
Yes.
and then not knowing who to root for because in one bracket I put one team, but a different bracket I put a
Yep.
different team. So
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know like what would benefit me more at this point. So I
Yeah.
end up on average doing like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I try to do. I think last year I did limit it to like 4, I believe, but because I said, okay, I can't do I can't go to Bleacher
Yeah.
Report, and I always do ESPN and our podcast, the network, they do one, and Work does one. So I always enter those, and then I'm on ESPN's, but then Yahoo has one, and Bleacher Report has one, CBS has one. I'm like, and then other people start asking me to go join in. I'm like, sure, why not? It's $10, and you put my $10 in or $5, whatever it is. Some of them are free, and I just put it in. And then next thing you know, I got 12, and I was like, so I'm like, oh my goodness, I got so many brackets, I can't keep track. So I have to write it down. Like, okay, I got to check this bracket, I check this bracket, I check this bracket. So I'm gonna try to limit it to like 5 at least. So, but I'll let you know if I if I do more than that. But hold me to it if I do more than 5 or 6. If I do more than that, then I can't keep track. But yeah, it's gonna be. We love this time. I really start paying attention to college basketball around this time, and I'll just do my research like I always do, and try to do the best and see what happens. Try to win a lot of money. That's what it's about.
Yeah, it's a great time of year. This is just so much fun. Like nothing else really competes with March Madness.
Yeah, it's definitely what it is. Madness of March. That's what it's about. So, all right, just gonna get a couple more topics. I want to talk a little. I want to talk some baseball, which I know that's dear to your heart as well. Boston Red Sox, uh, in the American League East, a lot of news happening. With now on the Yankee side at least, Garrett Cole could be possibly out 1 to 2 months. So you already have that injury from there. Your Boston Red Sox, they made a few moves here, but what's your what's your take on the Red Sox and heading into this season? Like the division is going to be competitive again. I know you don't want your Red Sox to be in last place again, but what's your and then you have a show, the Lockdown Red Sox. Everyone tune in to that each and every week, where Gabby's the host. But what's your whole take on the Red Sox heading into this season?
Yeah, this off season definitely was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
Prior to the off season really beginning, the Red Sox front office made some comments about how they're going to go full throttle this off season and they're going to make a lot of moves to be competitive. And they didn't really do that. There are still a lot of holes in this roster to me heading into opening day, particularly because they signed Lucas Giolito this
Mm,
offseason, and he now is going to miss the entirety of the 2024 season. And this was for a starting rotation that already had question marks to begin with. So
yeah.
now they're stuck in a situation where they don't even know who their fifth starter is even going to be, and really not their fourth starter either. They only have 3 solidified starting pitchers right now, and then they're going to kind of try to work with what they have to fill those other 2 spots. And it's definitely been disappointing because of the fact that they finished in last place in their division last year, won 78 games, and that to me is a message that says you need a lot of work that you have to do in order to get back into contention. And they didn't really make all these aggressive moves like they should have made after a last place finish. So it almost says to me, we don't see ourselves competing in 2024. We're going to use it as a bridge year and set ourselves up for 2025 and beyond, which is fine if that's how they feel. But they should have said that to begin with. They should have said, we don't really see 2024 as a competitive season for us. We are focusing on building a team that can sustain success from 2025 and beyond that. And then that would have lowered people's expectations about how this offseason was going to go. And what they did do this offseason would have made a little bit more sense if they said that that was the case.
Right. And it looks like you said they're pitching, and we talked about this. Me and you had talked about this. It's like their pitching is not what the Red Sox are. They're used to having great pitching and great relievers, and you're right. You said it's been disappointing because if you're saying you're gonna go all in, it sounds like Cowboys. It's like for real. It sounds like the Cowboys front office is like, oh, we're gonna go all in, and then you're not making any moves that make sense, or you're not making anything. It's like awfully quiet. And Red Sox heading into each and every year, as you said, as a fan, expectations are always high. Is always want to be competitive, and it's a disappointment that they're not trying to put a competitive team, not trying to put anything together as a competitive team out on the field, and then the results are what they were last year. And like I said, if injuries hit this team, they're really going to be below 500. So, and then you're in a like the American League East, and the strength of it from top to bottom, from Baltimore to the Yankees to Tampa to Baltimore, and then you got in Toronto. Where does the Reds? Where are they going to land? Where it's like, well, are they going to be better than any of those 4 teams?
No,
We don't know, right?
I'm not seeing it as of
Yeah,
now.
yeah, right. So it's like it's all about like developing. They're not developing their talent like they usually do, or they're not making moves like they usually do. And it's like, okay, is it gonna be another rebuild? It's possible, right?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're still in rebuild mode. They just haven't actually used that word and haven't come across and said that to people straight up. Like, okay, we are in rebuild mode right now. There's a lot of young talent in the farm system that I think they're waiting to come up and contribute. But the thing about that is you don't want to rely too heavily on your prospects because not all of them are going to pan out.
Right.
So it's good to have a balance of having some veterans on the team who are experienced and you know what you're getting from them, and then also having your young talent. One thing I will say is they did do a lot to improve the coaching staff this offseason. They put some people into roles who can really help with development, especially on the pitching side. I think they really want to focus a lot more on effectively developing their pitchers internally. So hopefully that works out for them. But overall, they are in a tough division. The other teams in the division, for the most part, made some moves to get better this offseason.
Yeah.
And, the Red Sox will have some guys who have big seasons. I'm really not that concerned about the offense. I actually do think the offense will be pretty good, but the pitching is just so much of a question mark to me right now that that's going to make or break their season this year. Is what does that pitching staff end up doing?
Yeah, and I think that's been the last couple of years with the Red Sox. As you said, the pitching has been a question mark, and we all know you need very good pitching to win in
Yep.
this, and to win, especially in this for a long time in Major League Baseball. You need great pitching. Any other storylines on either side in the National League and the American League that you're looking forward to on any of the other teams? What are you looking forward to storylines, or what do you like to see what's going to happen in of this season of baseball, which is going to be in less than 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think the Dodgers, I mean, they had an
Yeah.
unbelievable offseason. I think
Yes.
having Otani and Yamamoto over there is definitely going to be quality entertainment. It's a bummer that Otani can't pitch in 2024.
Yeah.
But even still, him being in the National League now is going to be probably one of the biggest things for people to watch. I mean, the Dodgers are absolutely stacked. Once again, they're not afraid to go out and spend money on players to make their team better. So on paper, once again, they are a team that should be World Series favorites, but obviously you never know. I mean, they've had their history recently of kind of choking in the postseason. So that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest things to me is now that they have all of this incredible talent over there, what is this team going to look like in 2024?
Yeah, I think that yes, that's one of the biggest storylines because the Dodgers they should be the favorites heading into heading into the season. But as you said, all that talent it's got to come together, and and can they do it in the postseason? And it goes with even with the Phillies here. It's they got two aces, yeah, right at the top of the rotation. Their lineup is potent. They got to the World Series 2 years ago. They probably should have went last season. They lost to Arizona. Uh, can they finish the deal? They beaten the Braves when it counted. So now it's all about the Phillies. Now you sign. You said got your aces on right at the top. They have the pieces in place. They can make a run. They're going to be good, but can they get over the hump? And can they because you said you had that small window in baseball where you could win for a few years and then so I think that's a thing. I think the Braves are another team, super talented, best rotation, one of the best lineups, and they win a lot of games. And then they get into the playoffs. It's like they run into the Phillies. Can they, that's I think that's another storyline too. And yeah, can Arizona? It was a big surprise last year. The Diamondbacks. Can they even get back to the World Series? Can the Texas Rangers? Can they? It's I was surprised. Can they? Win? They got their World Series. Can they win again? There's a lot of good storylines heading into this baseball season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the crazy thing about baseball. It's so unpredictable. Like I
Very.
never in a million years would have picked the Diamondbacks to go to the World Series last year.
Yeah.
That was
No.
just it was just
No.
crazy the way that happened. You never know. They might be able to go back to the World Series again this year. They're certainly talented. They had a lot of young players last year who got that exposure now and can really step up this year. So it'll be interesting to see. I could see a lot of teams being in the mix. But baseball's so interesting. You just have to have the momentum at the right time.
Yes, in the end of the year,
Yeah.
especially because you're right. I mean, when the Diamondbacks they beat the Phillies were up 3-2 in the series, and then heading back to Philadelphia, the fans here they were. I was at my gym, kickboxing, and the fans were just like yeah, we're gonna, and I'm thinking, I was like, okay, let's pump the brakes. Yes, the Phillies had, I think they were more talented. They had the more talented team, but again, you get the most talented team, you still don't make it to the World Series, and I think that's what happened to the Phillies. And it's gonna be yeah, baseball's so unpredictable. You don't know who you can win 100 plus games and still not make the World Series, still not win.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, which
Dodgers have
happens
done
to
that.
the Dodgers quite a bit.
Quite a bit, yeah. But I am interested to see how Otani does in LA because he's if not the best player in baseball, one of the best players in baseball. So we'll see what happens there. So all right, last one. I want to get into another winning team of yours, your Boston Celtics, looking stronger than ever. The last time we talked to that before All Star break. Last time we had a show, we talked about before All Star break, and we were discussing how good can this team be, and they're showing how good they can be. They look almost unbeatable. Uh, what's your heading into? They got 6 weeks left in the NBA season. Is there any threats to them in the East, or do you feel like the threats are going to be in the West? Because it looks like the Celtics are just running away with the East, and I don't know what top team. I thought Milwaukee maybe they match up, but the way the Celtics look, they look dangerous. I mean, they are very dangerous. Cleveland, maybe, but I don't see them being a threat either. Philly has dropped because of the Joel Embiid injury, so they might not even make the playoffs. So that's a possibility. Miami's always a threat. You gotta really consider them. But is there any team in your eyes that can actually beat the Celtics in the East?
I honestly think no. I mean, I think if we're
Yeah,
being quite candid here,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think the Bucks, that whole coaching change just completely threw them off. I don't
Mm,
think that was a good move to make at that time at all. Especially with a first year head coach like that, he was doing pretty well over there and the guys
mhm.
were, obviously playing well at that point under him. It didn't really make sense to me to make a midseason coaching change like that. I think mentally that can disrupt the players and their flow of what they're doing. So I think that definitely had a bigger impact on them than people are really talking about. And I also thought heading into the season, they looked like the team in the East that would give the Celtics the most problems. But the Celtics team is looking very, very good right now. I mean, nobody in the East is really close right now
No.
either. I think, as long as everybody stays healthy, I think the Celtics easily should go to the finals this year. I just don't think there are teams in the Eastern Conference that are on the same level as them. However, there are a couple teams in the West that concern me, primarily the Nuggets. They lost twice to the Nuggets this year. The Suns are a team that, sneakily could be pretty good. I think the Clippers are another one that are a little underrated right now that nobody's talking about that I think could have a chance to give the Celtics some problems too. They did beat the Suns twice this year, but that's a team that if they get hot in the postseason, I could see being a team that goes to the finals. So I think when it comes to the Celtics, more of the teams that I see giving them a challenge would be in the West. I actually could see a Celtics Nuggets NBA Finals,
Yeah, me
and
too.
that would be a tough 7 game series. I think that'd be a very competitive series. But the Celtics would run into some problems there. I think the Nuggets are the only team realistically that I see actually being at the same level as the Celtics right now that could legitimately give them some problems. But I really like that Joe Mazzulla is now experienced with being in the NBA playoffs. So hopefully he's learned from last year.
Yeah.
And the talent around Tatum and Brown is just very, very good now. They've
Yes.
gotten Drew Holiday, who has been so great on both sides of the ball for this
Hmm.
team. Porzingis, as long as he's healthy, has been an addition that they've needed, and he's been healthier than I thought this year so far.
Yeah. Yes.
Hopefully he's able to stay healthy. And they've just had guys step up that I didn't think were going to be as effective as they are. I mean, Derek White's having a great season. He's just the perfect playmaker for this team. And guys off the bench, too. I think Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard have really done their thing this year off the bench. Luke Cornett also even has been a big addition off the bench this year. So they went out and got Xavier Tillman at the trade deadline, who
Yeah.
is going to be a helpful piece off the bench too going into the postseason. So they really were already playing very good basketball heading into the trade deadline. Added a couple pieces, like minor pieces, didn't give up too much to make this team feel more complete. And they just look like they're just a very complete basketball team right now.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I think they've proven like heading into the season. I know we talked about this. The it was the depth and the health, and we knew of a difference of Porzingis when he's healthy. He makes a huge difference. And I questioned their depth heading into it, but they've proven me wrong with the depth because, as you said, their depth is like one of their strengths, and they shoot threes. They play defense. Drew Holiday was a tremendous addition. Like, how much do the Bucks miss Drew Holiday? Like,
Probably a lot.
a lot. Like, I mean, the what he bring. He already. I mean, the Celtics were already a good defensive team. He even just took it to the next level because he is probably the best perimeter defender because he can defend the 1 through 4. He can defend guys. He can defend a guy from. He can defend someone like a Dame Lillard all the way up to a Kevin Durant, and he can really defend because he is that good of a defensive player. So he brought something totally, and he's good offensively. Derek White, he has stepped up. We know Tatum and Brown, and what Jalen Brown's been doing lately is just being more aggressive. Like, I'm loving this Jalen Brown where he's just it just takes the Celtics offense and to another level. It's like how much more levels can they get? And we know what Tatum brings, MVP caliber player that he is. And then he said Porzingis, he's the difference. I think Porzingis and like they're the difference maker, and Drew Holiday, they're the difference makers for the Celtics, and they are that complete of a team. I felt like the Bucks could give them a run. I don't know. I mean, yes, Giannis can really elevate and get the Bucks to a certain level, and we can't count out Dame either. But you're right, that coaching change in the middle of the year with Doc Rivers hasn't panned out like they thought. And yeah, Celtics like they're the team to beat in the East. Denver, I think, is the team that they will have some trouble with just because of Jokic and his size and their experience, and they've been through it. And they have a complete that 1 through 5 is really solid, so they'll be able to match up with the Celtics. But Jokic would be the difference maker for them. But then again, Porzingis will have to just continue to keep stepping up and really do his thing. Well, we both like the move with Porzingis, just the health. We were just questioning.
Mhm. Yeah, the health was the biggest thing for me when they acquired Porzingis was can this guy
Right.
stay on the court? Because that would be a huge piece for them if he can. And he absolutely has been just a great piece. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of guys on this team who just want to win. Horford, especially. I mean, for somebody like him, he just
Mhm.
wants to win a ring at this point. And Tatum
Yeah.
and Brown, I mean, they've been through this too many times and not finished the job to the point where they're like, we are ready to win now. And I think the veteran experience of Drew Holiday is going to be huge for them this year too. Somebody who's been in that situation before,
Yeah.
that can kind of help from a locker room standpoint as well.
Yeah, and it's helping because you're right. Drew Holiday brings with size the defense and good offensive play and just some leadership. He's won a championship. He was on a championship team with that Bucks team and was a huge part of that that helped them. So he brings that experience and it's other they're just now you can tell Tatum he wants to lead this team to the championship. They're tired of like getting close. They've been close for the last 6 7 years of getting like they were in the finals a couple of years ago. They probably should have got to the finals last year, losing to Miami the way they did. I just feel like Miami's that's the one team and Jimmy Butler that could actually give them some troubles like they did in the past. But the Celtics teams is just they just it feels different. It really does. And
Yes.
I know as a fan for you watching, just feels a little different this year. So yeah, I don't see anybody. The Knicks are playing well. They're getting healthy. So I know they were before All Star break before players got hurt. They felt like they could make a run. And the Sixers, of course, if Joel Embiid was healthy, it might be a different story the way he was playing. But again, in the playoffs, they don't really. I can't count on them. Can't count on them in the playoffs. So they don't look. They look they're eighth, so they could play themselves right out of the. They could go right in that play in and play themselves right out of the playoffs unless MB comes back, and who knows how healthy he will be if he actually comes back to playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think, looking across the board here, there will be some other teams that might be able to
Yes,
create a competitive series with the Celtics, but realistically, when this Celtics team is playing their best, I mean, who in the Eastern Conference can realistically sustain that level of competitiveness that the Celtics are going to bring to each of these games? I just am not seeing it. I just really feel like this team should be in the finals.
they should. They definitely should be in the final. Conference finals, yes, but the finals, I think they definitely should be because, like I said, Cleveland, as great as they've been playing, we'll see. Donovan Mitchell he can take over a series, of course. And we said with Giannis too, they might be there only in Miami, but Orlando, Indiana, young teams that are having tremendous years, just making the playoffs, I think will be a success for them. But I think they're just maybe a year away from really making a lot of noise. And I don't see the bottom teams like a Brooklyn, Atlanta, Chicago. Um, yeah, I don't see it. So yeah, the Celtics, and they're the only team to really, and I think they're the only team to clinch a playoff berth right now. So a playoff spot. But yeah, Denver, the West is more. I think it's competitive because got OKC, got Denver, uh, Minnesota Clippers. The Pelicans are playing really well right now, and you said Phoenix. You just don't know with that team either. If all of them are healthy together, they're going to be a tough out. So yeah, the West is the more competitive division or conference. So we'll see what happens there. But Gabby, man, we talked about a lot of different things
We did.
and everything too. So I really, like I said, I appreciate your time. Always appreciate the conversations we have on and off camera. But let everyone know where they can follow you on social media, follow the podcast, and where they can like reach out to you and maybe get you on their shows too. But where they can follow you on all social media.
Yeah, sure. So I am on Twitter at Gabby Hurlbut 10 and on Instagram at Gabby underscore Hurlbut 10. And I have two podcasts, Boston Balling and Locked On Red Sox, both of which have Twitter accounts at Boston Balling and at LO underscore Red Sox. I'm very active on all of those accounts on Twitter. Always love to hear from different people, talk sports with different people. And if one of my favorite teams is playing, I apologize in advance for my craziness during games and my fandom, but it's a lot of fun. You can follow me on those platforms. You can also check out either of my two podcasts on any podcast platform: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. I am on those as well. So Locked On Red Sox is all Red Sox talk. Boston Balling is Boston sports talk. So check me out on all those platforms.
Check out Gabby's work. I mean, she's definitely one of the best in this media industry because you said you talk a lot of not just Boston sports, but all types of sports, all types of content that you have there. I'm so grateful that I can call you a friend and what we discuss a lot of different things just in sports and life in general. So like I said, I really appreciate the friendship, the partnership, the business that we do together. And every time we just have done so many shows, crossover shows together, I really appreciate that. And again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. And I've always enjoyed our conversations.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's always such a pleasure chatting with you and being able to cover a lot of different things too.
Yeah.
So definitely always happy to come on anytime.
Yeah, anytime. I know we'll be talking probably during the NBA playoffs, and
Yep.
after we'll see if UConn makes the finals. We'll have to probably
Hopefully.
do another. We have to do another show, and it'd be interesting if like the women's and the men. And I know you'll be really like in that. You'll be in your glory there because
Oh yeah.
if they both made it, Celtics win the championship.
That'd be amazing.
That'll be like a year. It'll be like the year of your fandom. That would be that'd be the best. Like you would just be like, yeah, I'm here. Like that's just the things you could cover. But so much fun talking with you always, and enjoy the rest of the weekend and enjoy the sports the rest of the week too as well. Rest of the weekend.
Thank you. You as well. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the weekend. And thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Until next time, you guys follow The Real Deal with Courtney Hart on all social and podcast platforms. Again, BS3 Network. You can catch all the shows there. Again, Spotify, Google Play, Spreaker, Apple, YouTube, everywhere you get podcasts. Till next time, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.